Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. Very different video this time. It's a video I've been meaning to get off the ground for quite a bit, but I finally got around to doing it, so I'm very pleased. I'll begin to get a chance to talk to you about something I've never talked about actually. You know me for my YouTube stuff really, you know, bits and pieces, you know, reviewing stuff, good bits and pieces, you look at nostalgia and stuff like that, you know, that sort of thing. You know, but in between those moments, of course, that time I was doing YouTube, I was actually in a band, believe it or not. I never told anyone about this because I kept it top secret. You know, keep it, you know, rather than mention it, told me that I'm doing, you know, doing this bits and pieces. You know, I'm in this at the moment. I didn't want to really talk about that. You know, rather than brag about what I usually get up to doing videos when I make content really. But I used to be in a band called Quiet Magician, and we were only active for maybe a couple of years, about 2 years, roughly 2 or 3 years we were, and quite interesting band it was. I'll probably get into details now actually how it actually came to be. So it all started when I met a guy called John Spence. John Spence was a Manchester DJ. He's one of those, again, so like wannabe DJ, like what some people are that new actually. You do DJ in a garage and stuff really. I met him at a house party 5 years ago, back in 2015, and we just hit it off with it. You know, we still hit it off well, you know, around the time. I think we were just drunk and, you know, having a good time really. But we hit it off with it, as with many other people, you know, who were basically just off their tits really on that night. But it was really good, and we just met. We did, and after that, we never see each other again because he went back to Manchester. He just sort of tagged along to this party he did, you know, like he was one of those. Just people who just come to, you know, just come out of the street, you know, just, you know, there's a house party, I'll go to that sort of thing, sort of deal. So he left back to Manchester, and I was busy just in Kendal really, and, you know, working. And it wasn't until 2016 during the summer, I think early summer, in June I think, I got a message out of him on the blue because we became Facebook friends. We did, you know, have a messenger, and came out of the blue and said, I'm doing a project up in Manchester. I was wondering if you're free. I said, well, sure. I might give it a go, really. You know, he sort of kindly asked me. I think he said he was trying to get a few people. Some people weren't really interested, so he asked me to join. And he asked me, do you play bass? I said, well, no, not really. I don't even own one. Well, get yourself one, secondhand, something like that, and come down. So I did. I ended up buying a black stag bass, which I still got actually in my room. I do, you know, I still have that, you know. That was actually used on the recording, that was, which I'll get to now. So I travelled down to Manchester, and he was waiting for me at the station. We head down to this unit garage area, and there was another guy called Ian Eastwood. He was playing guitar. It was John was on drums. Ian was another DJ. It was that John knew from his neck of the woods around the same. I think around the same area. They were friends really, and we just hit record and we started doing a lot of jamming we did. And what came out of that was the Savage Fire album, which I put on the channel recently. So that's the record of me, John and Ian recording in a garage in Manchester in 2016, just doing that sort of stuff. It was pretty good. Looking back on it, it's actually really good. A lot of noise rock it was. It's very heavy, it's just loud and raucous it was. Very interesting, very good time it was. And John thought the idea was to put it on SoundCloud for a change, you know, on SoundCloud, which is a bit interesting. Okay, I was a bit okay. Well, people listen to it. I think, well, I don't know. Some, you know, if you know on SoundCloud, people probably listen to anything really. To be honest, if they're stoned or anything or drunk really. So just put it on. It probably give a psychedelic element to them if they listen to off the internet. He said, and he thought, okay. So we did that, and it was on there for a good number of years. It was. It's been taken off recently. The only record I've got is actually the one up on YouTube because John gave me a master copy of a CD. Last time I saw him in January this year, and I've uploaded that album onto YouTube, of course. So yes, so we did the album, of course. Then afterwards, Ian left. He went off to Australia. He actually ended up getting married. He did, and I actually again. Same January when I met with John as well in Lancaster, I was with Ian as well and his wife actually. So the four of us, we were just going out having a bit of lunch. We were and just going around just, you know, buying records and stuff, music and everything else. So got around Lancaster really, to be honest. Just have a decent little time really. See, have a good couple of hours really. That was a nice, good time it was. So he left, and I basically, I was staying kind of the point, of course. So this is coming up to about like late towards the end of 2016. This was so about November, December. In November actually. I got another message from John. He said, I'm actually doing another, I am actually thinking about doing another project. I was wondering if you'd be interested. It's only just me this time because Ian's left the house. He's basically went off to do other things. And I said, sure. So I met up with him, of course. Naturally, when he was with, met me in Kendal actually. He came to Kendal. Rather than me go to Manchester, he came to Kendal. Went to a pub, met at a pub, we did have a few pints, and we discussed what was going to happen. And he said, we want to form, we need a band or something. We need musicians really. But he didn't want to play drums, of course. He was more into the producing type of role, really. Just managing with sound and also production, really. But he wanted me to be part of the project and actually just, be one of the main key players in the thing. I said, okay, but how are we going to do that? So we'll have to find some people, make some advertisements, advertise either via shops, put notices in shops, either via social media and stuff like that, That's the best, probably one of the ways to go, You do the old-fashioned way now and again, but see if he'll do anything, really. So we stuck some notices around, of course, and bits and pieces we did. And John puts a few notices in shops as well, just to indicate, that we are interested in forming a band, really. So that was it. That was the main thing, really. Nothing really ever came from it until, I'd probably say, very early 2017. January 2017, that it started to get rolling. I think we put them up on I think December. Well, we met in November, of course, but I think we didn't start actually really putting stuff together until December, really. So in January, that's when the key players started coming together. So the first person who joined us in the group was a guy called Daniel Salter, who was from Liverpool. He was a keyboard player, keyboardist. He did a few session work for a few solo artists. He did just playing piano and stuff. Really, he did a lot of bits and pieces. He was in a couple of bands. He was around Liverpool, but he mainly focused on the solo artist type of thing. Recorded on other people's stuff, really. That sort of thing. So he was more of a session player, really. Dan's a crazy guy. He's got brown curly hair, thick Scouse accent. He's nutty, he is, but he's lovable at the same time. We sort of gelled with it instantly, He brought this. He had this keyboard thing. It's like those little, they're like, you put them in houses, they're like plastic keyboards. You sometimes get them in. You saw them on train stations sometimes when people just randomly play pianos now and again. A bit like that, but yeah, there was two sets, of course, and he had like multiple sets of bits and pieces like organs, keyboards, synthesizers and stuff like that. Apparently, to be honest, it's like that, but like an organ type, and like a Hammond B3 or something like that. So like a black plastic organ type keyboard set. Really, they had 2 rows and all sorts of stuff included on there. Mellotron stuff. Again, old synthesizers as well that he somehow got made. Really, so it was only, I think they only got one make as like a test thing or something, apparently, that he knew some people in college. He did, or from a technological point of view, really. So he actually made that together, and so he could make an all-in-one keyboard or something. Like technology these days with touchscreens and stuff, but he wanted an actual keyboard thing. So he ended up with this thing. And actually, it was really good. Very talented man he is. All fingers and everything else, but he's crazy as hell. He's absolute psychologically crazy. But he's a great player. But like Keith Emerson in a type of way. But he's really good. No knives involved. So he didn't throw, he threw a few things, but he never threw knives on the stage or anything like that on a speaker of the audience. So, yeah. So he was there. He was the first to join. Then next up is the lead guitarist, which was Mike Ryan. He was from Australia. He came from New South Wales. He was actually in the UK at the time doing bits and pieces, Again, working on session work, just doing bits and pieces, of course, working with other people, different bands and stuff, trying bits and pieces. And he was basically out of work at that point, he had nothing else to do. So he ended up joining. He found an ad and just basically came down. He did. The rehearsals were taking place in Manchester. They were, so we all the whole band was getting formed in Manchester at the time, so he came down, guitars and everything else. Very talented player, very fast as well, heavy as well, quite dirty, quite bluesy, dirty type style to him. He can play light as well with acoustic stuff as well. You know, very good. Short hair, brown. Sort of like, you know, short, very sort of like, he looked like he stepped out of Manchester. He looked like he was a Mancunian, but he was actually straight Austrian. This is how he looked, really, to be honest. Brilliant, very good, very talented. Lot of solo, very good solo stuff that he did. They showcased actually when he did rehearsals, and and the rehearsals happened with me and Dan, of course. Really good stuff, and we just hit it off really good. You know, that's the thing. Very good. Then we got who was next? Oh, the drummer, Kevin Reyes. Kevin, in actual fact, he was a bit of a musician, but he was also an actor as well. He was doing some short film work actually up in just nearby Manchester. Actually, you know, just doing a few, I think it was like PSA ads or something like that. He was doing or something with health or something probably, and he caught wind again. He saw the auditions, of course, in the store window actually. Like for a few people, some people tend to check off on social media and stuff like that, but I think the ones that actually came and actually formed the band did sort of see them in like shops and stuff, like, you know, like in adverts and places around the north, really. So when he came, he's American. He is, so Kevin is American. He comes from Santa Monica in California, just doing a bit of acting work. He's a heavy drummer. He is. If you can just give him a drum kit, he's very powerful. It's very powerful drum, very heavy type drummer. He can do a little bit of light, but he can actually just do a lot of. He's very fast. He's a bit like Chad Smith in a way, that type of style, really. Very muscular man as well. He is, you know, very good-looking man, tall, just very muscular. He is, you know, just like giving someone like him, looks very athletic, and just gives him a drum kit. It's like insane, but really good stuff that he's given, and we're going well as well, of course. Then we've got Carlos Myers. Carlos Myers is a rhythm guitarist. He was again another session man. He did a lot of stuff from New York. He comes from Brooklyn. He does Brooklyn, New York City, and he did a lot of session work back in New York actually for a lot of artists. He did at the time, well, local artists really, just like starter-ups really. So that sort of thing, and just came basically just seeing if there's any session work in the UK, and of course he just found out really, and again joined on. Very funky player. Carlos was very good. He can tackle a lot of good rhythm stuff. He can play a little bit of solo lead as well, a little bit of lead guitar, but rhythm is more his forte really, and he's really good as well. You know, very very good. You know, he can master a lot of funkness, of course, like Nile Rodgers type style, very much. You know, he can really do that sort of stuff. Really good stuff that he's done, indeed. A little secret weapon of the band really. So yeah. So he was included. So he's from Brooklyn, New York. Again, rhythm guitarist, very good. So at this point we had me on bass, Daniel Salter on keyboards, Mike Ryan on lead guitar, Kevin Reyes on drums, and Carlos Myers on rhythm guitar. And there's one last guy who is actually the most versatile person we have actually ever recruited, and that's Masami Tyecheski. Masami Tyecheski, who's Japanese. He is actually a composer who worked on TV shows, short films, and long indie films, and video games. So he's a very sort of profound, talented, upcoming, you know, talent. He was in terms of composing really. Never really did band stuff really, but he's more of a composer. Does his own things. He does. Very talented man. He can play any instrument he can. You know, if it's be percussion, woodwind, saxophone, guitars, keyboards, you know, that sort of thing. He can do all sorts of stuff. String instruments as well. You know, a very talented man he is. And of course, he basically wanted to join because he wanted to feel like being in a band really, because he just done a lot of composing work really. So he thought this will be an interesting step in my career really, into my music type life really. So he joined on board. We just headed off with it. So we had the main 6 guys of us, you know, the sextet of course. So we were just ready, and we did a lot of material. We ended up writing quite a bit of material, when we started coming together, when we all glued together, we started writing a lot of good material. We did. The only problem was we couldn't sing. None of us could hold a note really. I'm not a very good singer myself. I can't really front the band. You know, if we did that, we would just be an instrumental band. You know, we can just recruit people off the street or people who are actually, you know, in need of a band. We could be a band for hire. That could be that was an original, interesting idea. You know, just get, you know, if there's anyone who's a solo artist who wishes needs to be a band to perform on a night in a pub somewhere, you know, just recruit us and we'll probably do that. You know, that was like the original idea, or an idea that was floating around. But in actual fact, we needed proper singers. We did, you know, either it's male or female, really. How it turned out was we ended up getting with 4 female singers we did from America. They all come from Los Angeles. They were college students, and they actually knew about me and John because we did the Savage Fire album that was on SoundCloud, and actually they thought it was pretty intense stuff and something I'd never really heard of, you know, because of what was going on in 2016. You know, and that was, you know, that was an album that sold out, speak out to them really with some strange reason. I wonder why. So they knew about it, and they also knew about we were recruiting. So they went down. So they left Los Angeles to, you know, doing like a way of college bit they were. So they left their sort of college stuff for a bit, then came down here and came down to rehearsals in Manchester. That what we were doing, and it was an interesting experience because they were good-looking girls. They were. There's 4 of them. There was Elise Coate, Sarah Kelly, Meg MacDonald, and Rachel Portland. So they were basically included on vocals. They were, you know, there was a bit of interesting thing with them. Something actually clicked, of course. You know, there was we actually gone well. Everyone seemed to go on well. Actually, the 10 of us. John was, of course, gone well with each other because he was busy producing the sound mix and stuff. Getting all the sound, proper sound ready, and everything else, and that's when the band hit really. Rather than do let's rehearse stuff and perform covers and do gigs and stuff. John thought it'd be a good idea to actually record an album first. You know, get them into the studio first, get that material that we've been actually recording stuff out and doing stuff. I think at this point we actually ended up, you know, when we were busy rehearsing before the girls came along, we actually made about 20 songs. We did 20 songs. That is actually interesting. You know, that's the power and determination of what we were doing really. Us lads were doing. You know, we end up just doing bits and pieces, of course, you know, and actually form some fully good songs we did. You know, lyrics were done, everything else, and a few bits and pieces in terms of rhythm. Well, the rhythm bits were sort of sorted out, really. You know, it's like, you know, we could just do a simple rhythm and do some interesting stuff on top with the likes of Mike and Masami and Dan, of course, you know, embellishing it and stuff like, you know, and to have these girls have interesting their vocals on it. That'd be really interesting. So John suggested, let's make an album first, and see, you know, get the essence of the band, record it down. And afterwards, when I think about doing live gigs or something like that, you know, that was sort of his plan, really. He ended up becoming our sort of our manager in the end, really. But that was his idea, and I thought, that'll be okay. So we'll record an album first, and hit the town, hit the cities or something like that, you know, hit the tiny clubs, the pubs, you know, that sort of thing. Then just, you know, make a little cult following. That's the best idea. That's what we did, really. Rather than record in the garage, which we actually solved it, we actually recorded in John's house. We did, you know, when we started to get together, we had to find a space. We did. So John rented out a what do you call it? An old. There's a few office spaces that were in Manchester. There was a few bits and pieces. They were sort of like used for rehearsals, really, to be honest, and. You know, like some people use them as band rehearsals or something like that. You know, you can book a section of like, or rent a section off in a room somewhere. It was basically somewhere like near an industrial bit, really. No, as in the city, somewhere in the city centre, so like nearby, or somewhere in close, really, and. Basically, sort of like an old factory, really. You know, and people just use that to rehearse stuff. Really, bands, if you're using live gigs or stuff like that, you know, they would basically just be, you know, they would again book a section off get that ready, you know, the band will rehearse and do the set list and perform the night. That's what we did. John's idea was to rent it, but bring equipment in, rent out a bit of a large space that was sealed off. Like if you just have, like, have a wall between both of them rather than interfering with the bands, of course. Which is, of course, I mean, we had a bigger band we did, so, 6-10 people recorded an album. And thought it'd be a good idea to actually record in there. And that became our sort of base operations for the 2 or 3 years that when the band was in existence, really. I can't remember what it was called, really, but big space, but like a loft type area, really, quite massive. John put his mixing desk and stuff, and microphones and everything else. He was a producer engineer types. He put all the things there, really. Like, I'll put this here, I'll put that there, in the corners here and there. Like give it a bit more, make it more very more studio like, really much like a live studio type style. And that's what we did. And that's what we did. That's how the studio came together, and that was our base operations for the next 2 or 3 years. So the first album obviously got together, of course, only the days when I was off, actually. I mean, to travel all the way to Manchester, up and down the train. It took a few days to actually record all the stuff, really, because, differences in type of style, of course, crept in. We were quite thinking, let's try this first, while we try that one. Let's try in this specific genre, let's try this one. In this style, try this one. In this sort of, I don't know, famous, rhythm, we'll try that one. So it's a bit like that, really. So it's a bit back and forth. That was usually what we did when we recorded albums, really. And yeah, it was a pretty interesting process. It was, going on for a few days. By this point, I was using a Rickenbacker 402, which is in jet black. It was. Masami gave that to me because it's in my. Because he noticed when I brought my when we were rehearsing, of course, I used my black stag bass, and he found it a bit inefficient, really. You think, like, you need a better bass than that mic. So he ended up loaning me one of these Rickenbackers, actually. Very nice guitar that was. I've always wanted to play Rickenbacker, so I finally did. Nice, decent black one, of course, and that was used on the tour as well, and also for recordings as well. Pretty good. I felt pleased about that, actually. But I wasn't going to keep it, but I was happy just to use it for now. Now again when we were using for the studio and airfields and also rehearsals as well. But it was pretty good. So let's go for the track listings, of course. So we've got 10 songs to go through. I think usually our albums to contain 10 songs. I think just like that's the standard album formula, really. So first we've got is Take It To Me. Take It To Me, in terms of song-wise, in terms of its meaning, it's basically like a song about being a yes man, of course. If you're familiar with that type of thing, of course you're doing the right things, do what everyone says to you, that sort of thing. I feel right actually doing a song like that, really. There might be a few, I don't know really, but we certainly thought like there's been a song about that, actually, so we thought let's record one. So we did. Very rocking, decent album opener it was, and constantly played for other tours it did, because it was more of a concert staple, that was, really. Take It To Me, still a good track that is, I have to admit. Very rocking, very sort of, again, because we're sort of like indie type band we were, of course, so it's again sort of indie rock stuff, really. That sort of typical stuff, really, to be honest. Bit of 60s like Birds-esque guitar work on there as well. In terms of the rhythm playing with Carlos, he sort of went back to the 60s. He went to the 60s mode with some of these songs, of course. And Take It To Me, it sort of does that, actually. But you have like it just pounds. It does. Very pounding song. It does. Great open track for it to open our debut album. Track 2 is Anything of You. This is the love song. The sort of rock ballad-esque type song that we do. I mean, love songs are sort of a thing that we tend to use now and again, really. But I felt pleased, really, and that we actually did that, really. We have to do standard love songs now and again. I think people do, of course. It's by nature if you record an album, of course. So Anything of You, great song, nice performed live, of course, and it was used as a bit of an encore, really, in some gigs, really. As a way just to keep the mellow down, if you know what I mean, keep everything mellow and all right. Track 3 is One of the Faithful. This is more a Christian rock type of song, really. Of course, I mean, it doesn't hint at anything about anything religiously or anything like that. But I do think it's like, a song about good Samaritans and, that sort of thing, true to be good and that sort of thing. So just a bit of a song like that, really. Of course, there's no
no references to anything like the Bible or anything like that. You know, there was never like anything, that sort of thing that we did really, because we're not really whole, you know, we can't do an epic song about of Jesus or anything like that. No, that's not our forte. No, that would be ridiculous and blasphemous, and we'll get banned and everything else, and the band will fall apart. Yeah, but that song was just, again, about good Samaritans, you know, just doing good deeds and stuff like that. That's more the things really. Track 4 is matter of fact. Stand song. In terms of its meaning, I would probably. I don't think what the meaning was actually, because we never. I think that's sort of a loosely anonymous song. That is, you know, it's never been. You know, and its meaning is anonymous. I like some of the rest on here, but it's all right. I think. I think it's to do with affairs, really. I think if you look at the lyrics, of course. I can't think of the lyrics, of course, because I've wiped them out from my memory. I don't have them anymore, actually, unfortunately. But they kept in an archive somewhere with John. I think he's got them somewhere in a binder somewhere. I don't know really. I think so, actually. Yeah, because he kept a few copies. I don't know if he's thrown away out or something like that. I don't know. But I think that's more to affairs. I think that's more of a, again, sort of like a domestic song, really. Matter of fact, I think. Number 5, of course, is Capital Chill. That's more to do with anti-capitalism and stuff like that. You know, like, again, what was going on at the time, you know, and sort of thing, really. But it's a good song. You know, very, very good. I mean, played a good number of times as well. Track 6 is I Am the Medicine. That is more... I Am the Medicine. That's meant to be something like a song like The Bringer of Hope, which actually was his working title, believe it or not. Bringer of Hope was actually the working title, but we called it to I Am the Medicine. You know, to make it a bit more punchy. I think the title makes it more punchy, of course, and we did use it in choruses as well. Indeed, but it's to do with, again, Bringer of Hope. It's more like to do with... It's more like a story-led thing about do, you know, like an apocalyptic situation, stuff like that, or like society falls down, that sort of thing, you know. But actually, it does work. It works nicely. It does. You know, very sort of. It's like one of those like a type of indie, heavy songs, like heavy metal lyrics in it, but has that sort of indie edge to it, which is actually really very good. Most of the lads prefer that song anyway, of course. And the next song, of course, they also prefer, which is Welcome to the Edge. Similar vein, of course, with I Am the Medicine, more heavy rocking. You know, like going over the edge, of course, you know, sort of like, I would say more like adrenaline junkie type song, of course. You know, going over the edge, you're jumping off a cliff, you know, you're diving down, you're going down ravines and stuff like that, you jump, you know, that sort of thing, jumping out of a plane, really. That sort of thing, about adrenaline, really. It works nicely. Them two songs are sort of like, sort of keeps the lads' favourites. So if you look at rock fans, who basically like Metallica and stuff like that, you know, like who basically all, you know, certain maybe bands who are basically into heavy metal, who are garage bands, same as us really, they tend to go for them type of songs because it fits their mould, it does. They sort of relate to them songs, they do, which is pretty interesting. Track number 8 is Didn't Anybody Tell You? Didn't Anybody Tell You? Just a song about excommunication, really, to be honest. I mean, that's the sort of thing that happens in everyday life, especially stuff in the work profession I work in as well, so I might address a song like that. Actually, and just, you know, like that communication, didn't anybody tell you? And that sort of stuff, you know. It's like anti-communication, just kind of, you know, just making fun of it. No one's referencing it, of course, in line of work, but anything like that. But it's just something goes on now and again from most of the work lives, actually, in work situations. So it's like, you know, it's a work situation song, really, so. And it's quite standard and still relevant today, really. That's a decent one. Track 9, the penultimate song, is Bottleneck. Just a song about drinking, really, to be honest. You know, like, everyone just hitting the bottle now and again. Free to relaxation, you know, drink is your drug, and that sort of thing, you know. That sort of thing. A song about alcoholism, you know, alcoholism, you know, drinking, that sort of thing, really. Just a bit of fun, really. Because I think that sort of song just came, you know, a song like that just came out when I remember, there was a guy who I remember from college, a guy called Wade, I think his name was a guitarist in a band called Handbrake Shirley back in the day. And he said to me, you know, like, most of the songs that we just read about were just about, you know, driving girls and drinking, really, to be honest. And it's like, you know, girls and driving a car, you just sort of like, you can understand that. But drinking, that seems like a bit of an interesting idea to cover, really. So I thought, I might try that, actually. And I wrote Bottleneck, we did. You know, that came out, really. But that's a really good song, that is, you know. Again, another favourite, of course, you know, keeps the pub heads and the piss heads happy, really. It's like a song about us. It's their national anthem, in a way. A song like, sort of like, you know, they raise up their hands and go it's like, you know, they finally respect us and that sort of thing, you know, in terms of the piss sets really. And the last track is Money on Your Side. Now this is more like, it's more in the same vein as Dear Mr. Fantasy by Traffic. You know, it's very sort of like psychedelic, you know, like melancholy ballad-esque type thing with heavy rock infused with it in the middles, of course. Really good. Just to do with money, indulgence, and drugs, really. To be honest, you know, it's like that sort of thing, really. You know, it's very similar to. You know, that type of song, very much like a sequel song to that really, but different. Instead of like having, you know, a fantasy character and stuff like that, like in the original song, this is just do with real life and indulgence, you know, with drugs and everything else, and you know, you can't always get your want, you know, always end in downfall, that sort of thing. That's just how it works really. And I felt very proud about doing that, you know, actually, you know, I mean, people have sort of done it beforehand, but this song sort of stands out in terms of a garage, like, independent band doing it. It just works, it does. You know, really good stuff on there. You know, first album, really good. I felt proud, you know, I felt proud of doing that because it's our debut album. It got well received, it did. Very nicely done. And yes, John was heavily pleased with it, of course. But the artwork just sort of got basically, you know, we didn't really care about artwork, really. We just cared about the music. It all was produced on the album, on the disc, and also vinyl as well. We did release them on vinyl as well because John knew a few people who pressed vinyl and CDs for a decent amount, of course. They produced a decent amount for us, put them in shops, of course, and we got very successful. They all sold out, they did, because it was quite interesting, because we were sort of a new band we were. You know, even though people thought we were all a Manchester band, we were not from... The thing is, we're dubbed as a Manchester band, but we're not from Manchester, really. All of us are from parts of the States, different parts of the UK, one's from Australia, one's from Japan, of course. The only sort of Mancunian you probably think is John Spence, who's the producer, really. But we got dubbed as a Manchester band, really. So, what else can you do?
So after the release of the album that we did, which came out in late February. So late February the album came out, our debut album, and we were sort of getting back into our own things. Of course, I was busy doing work, you know, getting back to work. And maybe a month later, John came out, messaged me, and said, we're going on tour. It's like, what? Wait, what? But we're going to perform some gigs, about 10 gigs we are. It's like, really? Now you're pulling my leg. I said no, because he booked some gigs, of course, because he's a DJ. He's been around multiple cities, so he knows a few people who have certain venues and stuff. So we basically, he ended up booking these gigs he did. So, and we ended up doing 10 shows. We did throughout places we were into. We started off with Newcastle. We did in a university. We did. So we went to one of the Newcastle universities. We did just one really. And just perform in the hall we did. And very nerve-wracking because it was, you know, the 10 of us on stage, and we sort of think, well, pull it off we did, so we might we did sort of try and pull it off, but yeah, it was a bit sort of a bit nerve-wracking, you know, because of also we were just performing in front of like maybe a few hundred people we were, and it was quite daunting. It was very daunting. Then afterwards, you know, it became a bit of a success really, so we sort of did alright. We did okay. After Newcastle, we did stuff like we did Plymouth, we did Stoke-On-Trent, we did I say Plymouth, of course. Liverpool we did. Bristol was the last one we did. Like out of the 10 gigs, Bristol was the last one we did that year. One of the worst ones I probably think of, you know, going on saying that was one of the worst gigs we ever did was in Bradford. Bradford was horrendous, you know, in terms of its audience and stuff. It was like, oh god, again, it's like a very fuggy audience, you know, like just like people just wanted to, you know, just have a fight really in the audience, throw stuff really. So it's very it was like a punk audience in a type of way. It was absolute horrendous, you know, very nerve-wracking. Again, out of those gigs, that is the most one we did. I mean, in terms of performance, we sort of did okay. We sort of managed bits and pieces, but it was just like, you know, it was just really, we couldn't really do much more about it, unfortunately. You know, in that term of performance, because of you know, it's no. And again, people were throwing stuff on stage. They were mainly cans and cups and stuff. It was really, again, you know, hitting our equipment and everything else. It was just like, you know, John producing, of course. He was him behind a curtain. He was in his theatre, and everyone just went ape shit, really. My God. But it was interesting because I've never been to many of those cities, of course. You know, Newcastle, never been before. Never been to Liverpool, never been to Bristol, never been to Plymouth, of course. I've never been, been to the ones, of course. I'll mention the other dates down below because it's been a while since I forgot where we went, actually, in certain places. It's just been a while, really. So I'll put the dates down below in the description, of course. But it was really, again, that tour sort of cemented our relationship on stage, of course. People sort of see us as a decent live act, and we thought that'll be all right, actually, so that'll do nicely. And we did about 18 songs with it. In terms of set list, we did 18 songs. We did songs that we did for the album, of course. So I think we performed all 10 songs we did. But also with some songs that were actually written during the time of the first album when they were actually recorded. Also, we did a few covers here and there, if you know what I mean. You know, stuff that we can sort of new and play, very much. And so got that, really. So, again, pretty decent. It was a stepping stone, of course, for the band, of course. You know, we sort of got together, you know, rehearsals through stuff, then did an album, and then we went on tour. So those are the three sort of interesting steps to do when you're doing a band, of course. And it was really interesting. You know, it's an interesting experience, a very nerve and daunting experience, first time doing it. But as we get into next year, it's more clear and a bit more professional. If we're more confident of doing it, what we did. And yes, that was a pretty interesting experience, of course. You know, ending in Bristol, of course, decent gig. That was really interesting, of course. Liverpool was fantastic, of course, because it was music culture and everything else. So, you know, Newcastle was sort of a similar thing as well, in terms of its familiarity and also, you know, architecture and everything else, you know. So, yeah, pretty good stuff. I've nothing else to say, really, to be honest. I mean, travelled in the van, we did, of course, travelled up and down. We never stopped anywhere. We just travelled to one city, then came back, and everyone got dropped off. Because how it worked, because we did selected dates John didn't do like a list of, say, we were in Newcastle the next day, then we're going to this one, then we're going to Stoke-On-Trent the other day, of course, like in a week or something like that. No, they were spread throughout the year. So, like, we sort of started in May, I think, with Newcastle, and then we sort of finished in, I think, November for Bristol, I think, and there was bits and pieces in between. But November, of course, was the last gig we did in Bristol for 2017. We did, but that was good. You know, of course, as time went on, of course, we sort of, I think to that last gig we sort of got it. And it's like we refined the live act. Let's see if we can do it more confidently, more professionally next year. I think that's what John said, of course. Again, this is about John Spence. This is, you know, his sort of mastermind bits and pieces, of course. You know what he's like, of course. You know, let's say, you know, this next time, it's like, of course, it's like the devil was saying, this time next year we'll be millionaires. It's that sort of like saying, like, it's confident, like, you know, next year, confident, strong, and be worthwhile and be famous and stuff like that. You know, it's like, I don't really believe that, but I think we'll just go along with it. So that's about it, really, with the touring, of course. And that touring cycle, you know, again, pretty shaky start, but so eventually got there in the end.